After a night in which I was contemplating to myself, why do I continue to do this? Why do I continue to watch and talk about this team on YouTube? A night in which the Bulls gave us one of the worst defensive efforts we have seen in years, and one of the worst shooting nights of the year for the Bulls, and one of the poorest shooting nights of the season. Then they followed that up with an insane performance on the offensive end, going absolutely ballistic from three, putting up everything they saw from behind the arc and could not miss. Zach Lavine, that was one for the ages, in which he put up a ridiculous 6 threes in the fourth quarter, 4 of which came in a 2-minute span, and hitting all 6 of them in the final 6 minutes of the quarter. An insane 18 points to close out the final 6 minutes for Zach Lavine in Detroit to get the Bulls a W. And look, the Bulls needed a response like this. Like, however you're viewing this season, you want the Bulls to lose as many games as possible to keep their pick and have a shot at Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey, or you want them to win, be fun and exciting to watch. It doesn't matter what end of the spectrum you fall on. Watching last night's game was not good for anyone, because even if you're wanting them to lose, the last thing you want to see is that kind of piss poor effort, especially from your younger guys. So even if you were happy with the L, you don't want to see an effort like that, because it's indicative of what to expect in the future and the mentality of your younger players when they're coming out looking like they don't care to be there. So yes, a response like this was absolutely necessary to show that the players took some accountability, had some pride, took the beat down personally, and came into this game with a chip on their shoulder to prove that they're better than that. And they did that tonight with much better energy and effort, much more focused on defense. The defense was still pretty bad at times, but it was a hell of a lot better than what it was last night, and they actually played with more effort in limiting the Pistons from getting easy looks on the perimeter. The Bulls had 23 threes tonight in this game. This is now the 4th time the Bulls have put up 20 or more threes this season, just 14 games into the year. The Bulls' franchise record for most games with 20 or more threes in a season, you guessed it, 4 times. The Bulls have already tied that mark, and we're not even a quarter of the way through the NBA season yet. Absolutely insane. Yes, it speaks to the changing landscape of the league and how the game is played now, but it most certainly speaks to the change in shot profile of this team from what we saw last year. Some of it is just kind of wild though. Like, in what world would we see Nikola Vucevic go off and put up 6 threes in a game after the kind of shooting season he had last year? Man shot 29% from 3 last season. Feels like he could barely get more than 2 threes once a month. And tonight, he goes 6 for 8 from deep. And this is after shooting 44% from 3 coming into tonight's matchup. Not only that, but Vucevic was effective and efficient in and around the basket despite getting beat up pretty badly last season by Jalen Duren. He finished the game shooting 11 for 18, 29 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. He was a team high, plus 24 on the game, a game that was still pretty close throughout it, but somehow Vooch managed to go plus 24. And by the way, he put up 29 points in the first 3 quarters. I thought the guy was going to be going off for a career high in this one when we saw him hitting 3 after 3 in the third, but didn't manage to score at all in the fourth quarter, probably because Zach Lavine just went off and the guy said, all right, do your thing. Zach's night was actually pretty crazy because he was pretty quiet for most of it. Wasn't shooting the ball especially well, only had 5 points going into halftime. Even going into the fourth quarter, I believe he only had 9 points, but then lit it up, came through in the clutch for the Bulls when they needed it most, because Detroit, they weren't going away. And for a minute there in the fourth quarter, when momentum was on their side, they tied the game up. It looked like this could be another collapse by the Bulls late in the game, but Zach, nah. He said, I got you, and he put them away. I will say, I know this is going to come off like a super hater comment. Some of those threes that Zach took, though, were a little questionable. Now, of course, most of them went in, except for that air ball when he was on a heat check. And so they went in, so it doesn't matter. And yeah, if he misses the first couple, he's probably not going to continue to unload from 3 after that. But yeah, I mean, some of the decisions on those shots, heavily contested, not really setting up a play. Again, I can live with it because the Bulls were struggling to score and they needed someone to come through and put up baskets for them. And at the end of the day, I'm happy because the Bulls got the win. And 29 other teams around the league are going to be looking at this performance and giving the Bulls a call around the deadline. And that doesn't just pertain to Zach Lavine, but also for Vucevic as well. Both of them were a plus 24 on the night, and the reason the Bulls won this game. These guys are productive and can impact winning. Now, give us all of your picks, please. Coby White also, man, 25 points as well, 5 for 10 from 3. Like, it's crazy. Coby, Zach, and Vucevic combined for 18 threes in tonight's game. When was the last time 3 Bulls players combined for 18 threes? Coby also 25 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He also started heating up when going into the fourth quarter. He was a little down on the night with his shooting prior to that. Josh Giddey, a better game for Josh. That said, sometimes I'm watching him and I'm just like, what the hell is this guy doing? I'm not just talking about the defensive end, because that's always been the case with Josh Giddey, but even on offense with some of his passes. Like, who is that going to? Throwing a lob on a breakaway right to the defender, dribbling himself into the corner, getting trapped. I'm not saying he's an idiot out there, because he's actually a very smart player and does a lot of things well. Man nearly had a triple-double tonight with 11 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists. But yeah, I cringe a little when I see him handling the basketball. And yet again, I believe it's for the 5th game now, Billy Donovan did not go with Giddey down the stretch and opted for Dosunmu in those closing minutes. Better game from Giddey, and he was a plus 13 in the night, but yeah, we still need to see him playing better to really cement himself as the Bulls' starting point guard that they're going to build with for the future. Patrick Williams, so Pat missed his 7th dunk of the season. And I saw this stat from Kenny Beecham, and he's only made 2 dunks all year. I didn't fact check that, I probably should have, but I trust Kenny. But Patrick Williams is 2 for 9 on dunks so far this season. How do you miss that many dunks? How is it possible that one can miss more dunks than they've made? Just a mind-boggling stat. And yeah, this game was a little better from Patrick Williams from what we saw last night, although that was the case with anybody really. But Pat shot 3 for 10. He was 2 for 4 from 3, which was good after going 1 for 7 the other night, but the man still really has trouble finishing. And for someone his size and with his strength, you gotta be better than that at finishing the basketball and throwing it down. Pat was great defensively in this game, which is always great to see considering he's arguably the Bulls' best defender, and they're going to need that from him to avoid another embarrassing night like we saw the other night against the Rockets. And so now the Bulls will take the drive over to Milwaukee to face off against Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's see if the Bulls can have their way with them once again in Milwaukee. Let me know your guys' thoughts on tonight's game. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.